Thank you for having me today to talk, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to observe the class earlier today. Let's start off. So you've watched the lesson, and I've watched the lesson, both at different times. We've yet to share our thoughts. If you had to rate today's lesson based on what you saw in the video, with 1 being the worst that you've ever taught and 10 being the best that you've ever taught, where would you rate that lesson from really the whole thing, from, even before and after the video?
I would probably call that somewhere between a 6 and a 7.
Okay.
I felt like it was a little hectic at first. Took a minute for the kids to get settled, but I think that once they started having a conversation and we really got into the topic, I think they really became engaged and became interested and wanted to participate. But I think they enjoyed it. I think it held their interest. I think that I provided a decent variety of things for them to do and for us to do as a class. Overall, I'll say it went fairly well.
So what about the lessons, after having watched the video and been able to reflect on the lesson as a whole, what about the lesson pleased you?
I liked that the students were able to come up with a lot of questions. They were thinking back to like coming up with their own examples and wanting to know more. Like when we did the Notice Wonder T-chart about the plants feeling pain, I was anticipating more questions than things they noticed, but I was definitely hit with a few more questions than I originally thought.
I thought that was a really cool thing because we're teaching them to question things that they're seeing, because it's not a skill that they have enough. Regardless of the subject matter, they always need to be able to question. And I think you're developing skills there that they can carry with and beyond, your classroom and other classrooms and even beyond school.
Right.
What else did you think was pleasing in what you saw?
I mean, overall participation. I mean, even throughout lecture, as I would ask questions, they were quick to answer. And then later in the lesson, when we did the Venn diagram, I thought they were all eager to participate, and they were almost kind of competitive, trying to find more than their partner or their neighbor. But I think engagement was probably, I feel like it was where it needed to be.
Right. So then let me ask this. You rated your lesson as a 7. So what about your lesson? Maybe could you adjust or maybe change to where you're able to move from a 6 to a 7 to, say, a 10?
I would say, one, try to organize it a little bit more. Like I said, it started out a little chaotic. I think that maybe changing some structure, trying to make directions more clear from the beginning would help those the introduction and transitions go a little bit more smoothly. And one thing that I've been meaning to do, and I think would greatly improve quality of like lecture, like mini lesson, is a clicker, something that would allow me to be anywhere in the room, so I don't have to constantly migrate towards the computer to change a slide every minute or two. I think that would absolutely help me as far as conversing with students as I move throughout the room, and to kind of monitor and interact with them throughout the lesson. I think that would help.
So what would your students be doing differently if you were to do or adjust the lesson to where it fits into a team? What would their role look like?
Maybe them taking more initiative as far as, I don't want to say questioning, because I thought they did a wonderful job asking questions, but really taking hold of their own learning and taking the initiative to take it a step further. So doing extension on their own, or really doing, or asking the deeper questions, or not so much as what's going on, but it's more of the whys that's going on. So maybe I could do a better job of sparking that interest, so they want to get into the mechanisms of why. What is the purpose, rather than just the black and white.
So tell me more about what that would look like in order to help your lessons and your classroom grow.
Kind of hard to put into words. I don't know, I guess I could, maybe not necessarily in that lesson itself, but in one following soon after, kind of allow free reign on some kind of research or some kind of independent project or study where the student could take something that they found interesting from that portion of the lesson and really get into the meat of it and use it to, you can tell when they really get interested and you kind of inspire passion.
Right.
Like when they find something that they really, really want to learn about, talk about, they're eager to tell others about it. So maybe use that to have them do some reciprocal teaching, something along those lines, to where they could, like I said, take charge of their own learning, do their own research, get excited about it, and then take that and teach their classmates.
So then what I'm hearing you say is you would like to be able to find ways down the road to create maybe more authentically engaging materials that are fit to the standards, but then also things that have kind of free reign to fit into like maybe their own personal desires.
More student-driven rather than me.
So how can you take the content and make it more applicable to perhaps real life problems or scenarios? How do you think you can do that?
I guess really the best way that I see anyway is to just try to make as many connections to things that they see every day as I can. With this being a rural area, I use the example of the cows in the lesson today with having their eyes on the side of their head so they could see predators coming. So using things that they see. And I noticed when I watched it again that when I asked where their eyes were located in proximity of their skull, I noticed all of them did the motions, the predator motion, the prey motion. So I noticed that those things are sticking, and that it's something that they recognize and see every day. So that's something that they understand a little bit more, and so they can apply it. So I guess just using more of those types of examples and connecting that content to real life, making it real for them.
Right. Well, we've talked about authentic engagement and then adjusting the success criteria in your classroom. Could you be specific as far as what that would look like inside of your ecology classroom?
The first thing that comes to mind would probably be to, like I mentioned earlier, give some leeway into some independent work. So let them choose some kind of project activity, something to do, so related to the standard. Say, we're talking about adaptations. So say they go home and they pick 2 or 3 organisms and they identify 4 or 5 adaptations in those organisms that they found in their yard or in their home or on their farm somewhere close by. So they would write it down, describe, and they would come in and then maybe in front of the class point out and say, my dog has sharp teeth because he's a predator. It's got this thick coat to keep it warm. It's got the padded feet to run on rough surfaces. So like they could, like I said, make it real. And it's something that they're getting to choose. So I feel like it would be much more authentic because that's what they actually want to do.
Right. So let's be specific. All right. So how exactly would we measure the goal of improving success criteria and creating greater engagement that's more applicable? So how can we measure that to see if that's going on in the classroom?
The only way I can think of to do it would really be just to talk to the students and get their input.
Right.
Because after all, it's them that it's going to be affecting. They're the ones going to be doing it. So I guess I could ask them, get their input, and kind of use that to guide my decisions as I move forward.
Do you feel that whatever their feedback would be would really, at the end of the day, influence you, or would provide meaningful feedback? First it would provide realistic feedback and meaningful feedback so that you could further shape the educational experience in here to be more engaging?
Absolutely. I mean, I know they're young, but they understand when they enjoy something and when they don't, and they know when they're able to learn and when they aren't. So I think they're absolutely capable of giving productive feedback. That I absolutely want to use their inputs to kind of shape that. Because like I said, they do know what they're talking about. They know when they're happy and when they're not.
Right. So what kind of teaching strategies, or maybe specifically, what are some specific teaching strategies that you could use to be able to reach the goals that we were talking about as far as improving student feedback on the success criteria and the engagement that's going on in the room?
I think differentiating the stuff we do in the lessons, keeping things changed up, mixed up, trying to really appeal to all the students regardless of what they like to do. Because there are some things we have to do regardless, and some things that not everybody will enjoy. So as much as I can, trying to keep the activities mixed up and trying new things, just so everybody kind of gets a taste of something they enjoy.
Right.
I think that will definitely improve engagement.
Could you be more specific around the lesson today? Kind of like you had touched on earlier about them being able to find animals in their whereabouts at home, getting out of the school building, or maybe even during the school.
So I guess really I could center the lesson or make the activities as applicable to as many different learning styles or intelligences as I could. Like introducing the physical aspects to give you the bodily kinesthetic appeal. Getting them up and outside, moving around, to appeal to the naturalistic learners. Looking at statistics, I could introduce like some statistics about adaptations and how they've helped survival for mathematical learners. Providing diagrams or pictures or any kind of visual representation for the visual learners. I mean, there's all kinds of things I could do to kind of reach all the different learners in the classroom. But I feel like it's definitely hard to do, trying to change things up so often.
Right.
So I guess you kind of have to pick and choose and try to transition as smoothly as possible.
Right. So what would be the next steps to be able to transition smoothly, yet not overload your plate, so much that the things that you're trying to do are unattainable?
I think just a little bit at a time, because it takes practice.
Right.
It's doing so much in such little time. It's one of those things that I'm not quite used to it yet. I haven't quite figured out how. But like I said, practice. And I feel like the more I teach and the further I get in the year, then I'll get better at it, and I'll be able to transition more smoothly.
So So tell me this, how can I help you be able to reach these goals with success criteria and then engagement? You know, so you talked about, you know, a smooth transition and happening throughout the course of the year. What can I do to help you?
I mean, you've done this a few more years than I have, so any feedback is greatly appreciated. Maybe as I come up with these, we could look at them together and just see what you think. And it always does help to have an outsider's perspective. So if you want to sit in every now and then and kind of watch how these things play out, like I said, your input would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I know that, I mean, this is your classroom, and so I'm really just kind of here to support you. And you've got the hands-on experience here, so you know, you're the expert, you know what's going on. So I guess really my question is, what could I help you as far as the day-to-day operations of the room itself? Because ultimately, I mean, they're your lessons. You know, I'm just kind of here to help maybe put some ideas at the forefront, and ultimately, you know, you're going to do what's best for you and your classroom and your students. And so, how can I help you on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, just being there to come to for problem solving, because most of this is trial and error.
Right.
And like I said, you've done this a little longer than I have, so you've tried a few more methods than I have.
Right.
So if something doesn't work, I mean, I would love to know if you have an alternative or something I could tweak or try to make it work.
Right. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time and you know, any help that I can provide or anything you need, you know, just don't hesitate to ask.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.